Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are standing barefoot on a moonlit swamp edge, surrounded by humming insects and ferns, so wide they could double as patio umbrellas. The water glistens like spilled mercury, and there's something tapping. Softly at first, like the sound of wet fingers drumming a coconut shell. It's not the wind. It's not a tree branch. It's coming from you. Your feet twitch. You don't know why. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you're nervous. Maybe it's just what your kind does when the moon's full and the air is thick with vapor. Whatever it is, you start to move tentatively, rhythmically. The muddy ground squishes and small ripples spread in the shallow pools beneath you. Somewhere in the fern curtain, something clicks its mandibles in approval. You're not a large dinosaur, not the bone-crushing kind with jaws that could snap logs. No, you're slender, maybe the size of a pony, though way more dignified than one. Your arms are short, but your legs are long and expressive, ending in 3 flexible toes each. No claws for rending, just soft drum-like pads designed not for violence, but for percussion. You are a tap dancer whether you meant to be or not. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Where are you watching from, and what time is it in your part of the world? Post it in the comments. I want to know who else is wandering this ancient swamp with us tonight. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along a narrow ridge of dry moss that borders a flooded clearing. The moon is ridiculously bright, spotlighting every ripple, every leaf, every wrinkle on your scaly snout. You blink slowly once every few minutes because that's how your kind does it. Blinking wastes precious time, and your eyes, large and forward-facing, are trained on the ground where tonight's meal is hiding. You're listening for movement beneath the soil. You're listening for applause. The first beat starts with a toe tap, then another. Your feet alternate, gently slapping the surface with a dull whoop, whoop sound. It's nothing dramatic. No Broadway theatrics here. This is closer to Morse code for worms. You keep it slow, predictable. The soil responds in kind, vibrating in silent waves which send signals to all the little critters hiding just below. A small beetle wriggles upward. You pause. There it is, gleaming black, dumbfounded, halfway out of the muck. Your head lowers, your tongue flicks. Crunch. One less bug in the world. Historians still debate whether this dance was deliberate strategy or instinct. Did you learn it? Was it taught, or did your kind just tap out of boredom and accidentally invent dinner theater? You don't care, you just keep going. The rhythm comes back, the bugs come back, and then something else stirs. Not food, not threat, something familiar. You stop, head up, tail rigid. A rustle in the ferns followed by a pattern, tap, tap, pause, tap, tap, tap. Someone else is playing your song, or rather challenging it. This happens sometimes. The swamp isn't your stage alone. You share it with others. Cousins, rivals, pretenders. And when they hear your beat, they respond not to duet, but to duel. Tap wars under the moon. You stay still. The air is thick with rot and humidity, but the tension clears it like incense. Then deliberately you resume. Louder now, faster. Whoop, 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 whoop. You hammer the mud like it owes you rent. The insects respond, but you barely notice them anymore. The other dancer steps closer. You see the gleam of feathers now, yes, feathers. A bit ratty, not the proud plumes of mating season, but they shimmer in the light nonetheless. You have some too, though you'd rather not draw attention to them. They're not decorative. They're there for insulation, for keeping dry, for blending into the silver grass under moonlight. The two of you lock eyes. There is no growling, no barking, just rhythm. Ancient and absurd. You stomp like your life depends on it. And in a way it does. Because here in this forgotten wetland, older than mammals' movement is survival. Not just from hunger, but from irrelevance. To not dance is to not be seen. And to not be seen, well, you probably won't survive. A frog leaps between you. Neither of you flinch. You've hit a trance state. The beat is the only thing that matters. You remember, though, not in the way humans do, how your mother once danced you out of the egg. Not with taps, but with foot vibrations against the nest, keeping the eggs warm and alert. You remember the night sounds to chirps, rustles, distant splashes. They haven't changed. The world changes, sure. Continents drift, climates flip like coin tosses. But sound stays. Your challenger retreats. Not with shame, just in quiet acknowledgement. You keep tapping a bit longer, not to rub it in, but to remind the bugs who's in charge. They get the message. Dinner delivers itself. Odd fact, a frog nearby just swallowed a smaller frog. That's not unusual. They do that. Nature doesn't run on empathy, it runs on timing. You sit for a while. Or something like sitting. Your back legs fold. Your chest hovers an inch above the mud. You doze, eyes half open. A beetle crawls over your foot. You let it go. Not every beat has to end in a bite. Above you, the moon tilts westward. Soon it'll vanish behind the hills, but for now, it's your spotlight. You own it. Your feet are ridiculous. You've never seen them. Of course, not the way humans would. There are no mirrors here, no still puddles clear enough to reflect anything but moonlight and mosquitoes, but you feel them. Each toe moves independently. The middle one is the strongest. The outer ones curl inward slightly like they're always ready to shape a sound. Not claws, not hooves, something in between. Tools of rhythm. And yes, they're padded. Not soft like pillows, more like old leather. Dense, absorbent. You walk and barely leave a sound. But when you want to be heard, that's when they shine. The pads slap flat on wet soil, sending tremors deep into the ground. It's like knocking on the door of every invertebrate living below saying, "Come out." There's a show. Now imagine trying to run on these things. It's a joke, honestly. You've tried, back when you were smaller, lighter, faster. But these feet betray speed. They're too big. They hit the ground too deliberately. And if you try to turn sharply, forget it. You slide like a toddler in socks on tile. This body was not built for sprinting. It was built for swaying hips and rhythmic stomps. If predators come, you don't dash, you disappear. That's why the feathers matter. They start just behind your jaw and trail down your spine in wispy fans. They don't make you look bigger, they don't dazzle, but they blur. At a distance, you're part of the underbrush. Your colors dull, brown streaked with swamp green, match everything except the sky. If you hold still, the only giveaway is your breath. And you've learned to hold that too. The tap dancing isn't just performance, it's armor. Camouflage through confusion. You're too odd to make sense of, and in nature sometimes that buys you a few more seconds. And seconds mean everything. Historians still debate whether these adaptations were for hunting or defense. Why make a dinosaur that can't run well, doesn't roar, and has the posture of a chicken watching a thriller? Some argue it was all about mating. That maybe, just maybe, the feet were for flirtation. The better your tap, the more likely someone notices. But others, those with mud on their boots and skepticism in their hearts, say it had nothing to do with romance. That this was about food and the moon, and rhythm long before language. You wake just as a mosquito tries to pierce the soft skin beneath your eye. A single blink shakes it off. You barely move otherwise. Just lift your head, angle your snout, and listen. The air is changing. It smells wetter, warmer. Which doesn't make sense because the sun's still hours away. But your toes, ridiculous as they are, feel something shifting beneath them. A pulse. The bugs are coming early tonight. You rise. Quietly, one toe at a time. The moss squishes, but you barely leave a print. And then you do something so weird, so unnecessary that a human watching would think it was a glitch in the simulation. You wag your foot in the air before placing it down. A little flourish, a prelude. Because dancing is never just about the movement. It's about the moment before it starts. The first beat comes soft, then another, then three in rapid succession. You alternate legs like you're balancing a cup of water on your back. There's no rush. You've done this 1,000 times, maybe more. The mud beneath you accepts the rhythm like a familiar lullaby. And it works. The soil stirs. Not violently, just enough for you to know there's life underneath. Worms, grubs, maybe even a sleepy snail if you're lucky. The bugs aren't scared of you. That's the trick. You're not stalking, you're announcing. You're offering a rhythm so predictable they forget it's dangerous. You catch 3 beetles and a milky white larva in the first 5 minutes. Crunch, crunch, slurp. Not gourmet, but it'll keep your tail from going limp. You dance a little longer just for the joy of it. Then something shifts. Not the air, not the moon, your foot. The left one buckles a little on the downstep. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind you this isn't a game. You're not invincible. You've put weight on those toes night after night. And the pads are tired. Maybe bruised. Maybe just bored. Either way, the message is clear. Don't overdo it. Odd fact, in some modern birds, toe pads grow thicker during mating season to handle increased displays. Your kind, though, long gone, might have done something similar. A sort of seasonal foot armor. Temporary, fragile. You step back, ease the pressure. The bugs retreat, but you let them. You've eaten. That's enough for now. A ripple runs through the ferns behind you. You don't turn. Not yet. If it's a wind, it's friendly. If it's something else, well, panicking never helped anyone. You lower your body, fold your feet under you, and become a lump. Just another bit of swamp. The sound passes. Just a nightbird, maybe a mammal, you'll never know, doesn't matter. You're still alive. Your feet itch, though. Not literally, emotionally. They want to move again. There's rhythm in your blood now stirred by moonlight and beetle juice. But you wait, you blink, you breathe, and you remind yourself the feet weren't made for fleeing. They were made for finding, for feeding, for being just weird enough to survive. And tonight, that's enough. The dance begins again before you mean to start it. One foot shifts slightly forward and the pads slap a bit louder than usual. A vibration zips down your leg, echoes through the bones, and sends out the faintest tremor into the earth. You freeze. Nothing happens. Then a slight rustle near your right toe. A centipede the size of a drinking straw pokes out of the mud. It shivers, hesitates, and slithers forward. You lunge more from habit than hunger. Crunch, gone. You pause. The vibration was weaker than usual. Your rhythm's off tonight. Maybe the pads are tired. Maybe it's the humidity. Or maybe it's the sound that's wrong. You test again 3 beats in succession. Tap, 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 wait, tap, a pause, then another. You don't hear much, but you feel something, like a ripple pushing back, not from your body, from the swamp itself. The sound isn't echoing, it's being caught. The ground here, wetter than where you tapped earlier, absorbs noise differently. It dampens the beat but magnifies the movement. A small discovery maybe, but an important one. The rhythm has to be adapted to the terrain, just like jazz, you suppose. Not that you know what jazz is, but if someone played a saxophone next to you right now, you'd probably get along just fine. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs understood acoustics in a conscious way. Could they tell the difference between mud and moss vibrations, or was it all trial and error? Some fossilized nesting sites suggest that certain species preferred rocky terrain for its echo, perhaps to communicate, perhaps just to hear themselves think. But others insist that instinct drove everything. And instinct doesn't care about acoustics. You do, though, or at least your feet do. They crave a certain bounce of feedback, a kind of percussive reply from the earth. Otherwise, it's just stomping. So you shuffle forward. Just a few steps. Find a drier patch. The sound sharpens. Tup, 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 tup. Much better. Insects respond almost immediately. From the base of a root, a flurry of wings erupts. You crouch open your jaws and catch two midair. You don't even chew. You just let them slide down your throat like midnight snacks in a dream. The rhythm changes again faster now. Not intentional, it's excitement. Your footwork accelerates into a kind of primal tapping not unlike rain on a stretched hide. You stomp in place with short, sharp bursts. The bugs go wild. It's as if they're drawn to the sound, not repelled. Hypnotized. Odd fact, in some modern deserts, certain lizards drum their feet to flush out prey buried under sand. Same basic principle, different beat. But here in the swamp, the dance is quieter and stranger. There are no applause lines, no crescendos, just steady rhythm and the slow reward of patient hunger. And that's when it happens, a new sound. It's not loud, not aggressive, but it's not yours. Another tapping, distant, muffled, like someone gently drumming their fingers on damp wood behind a curtain. You stop mid-step. Raise your head. The sound stops too. You wait. You squint. Then it begins again. 3 slow beats. A pause. Then a flutter of faster ones. No specific pattern, more like testing or mocking. You exhale sharply. Not a hiss, not a threat. Just exasperation. Another dancer. You've encountered this before, of course. Your kind aren't territorial in the usual way. You don't build nests or defend branches. You defend rhythm. Each dancer carves out their own acoustic space. And when 2 sets of feet overlap, the results are unpredictable. Sometimes it's a silent standoff, a war of posture and patience. Sometimes it's a coordinated duet, 2 dancers forming a temporary alliance. But more often than not, it's a duel. You slowly circle toward the sound. The underbrush parts and you glimpse them smaller than you, younger probably. Their feathers are sleeker, shinier. Their eyes glint with mischief. They don't even pause when they spot you. They just tap harder. You respond, of course. No choice. Your first few beats are measured, precise. Old school. You've done this longer than they have. Your rhythm's deeper, more confident. You can feel the soil respond. But they're faster, wild, improvisational. They spin in place, flipping pebbles with each kick. It's excessive, it's undisciplined. It's kind of cool. You try a new rhythm, offbeat, syncopated, a little chaotic. You stomp once, drag your toe, and slap the ground like punctuation. Bugs scatter. The younger dancer stumbles. Just a bit. Enough. And then they stop. Entirely. No tapping, no footwork, just stillness. You hold your pose. Neck lowered. Eyes locked. One toe hovering just above the earth. A full 10 seconds pass. Then the rival backs up slowly. No growl. No display. Just respectful retreat. They disappear into the brush, their feathers fluttering one last time. You win, you guess. But you don't feel triumphant. The rhythm is gone now. The moment passed. You stomp once more, but the beat feels hollow, flat. The bugs have vanished. The soil's cold. Still, that duel, it felt like something more. Not violence, not courtship, not even territory. Just recognition, a shared language. Spoken through feet. You curl your toes, sink them gently into the mud and sigh. No applause, no encore. But the swamp listens. It always does. You're not alone out here and you never have been. The swamp is loud in its silence. It hums with undercurrents, tree frogs clicking like faulty light switches, cicadas rasping a broken lullaby, and leaves brushing against each other with an urgency that always feels like it's building to something, but never quite does. And tonight, the rhythm in your feet is not yours alone. Another dancer has taken the stage. At first, you think it's the same young rival from earlier back to reclaim lost rhythm. But no, this one is bigger, slower. Their beats are heavier, as if each toe press is trying to rewrite the ground itself. It's not a performance. It's a message. You freeze mid-step and listen. The swamp hushes just long enough to let you count. 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, 3, pause. 4-beat gallop, then silence again. It's not aggressive, but it's not peaceful either. It's the sound of someone who knows the swamp listens. You stay low. Your eyes scan the shadows between tree trunks that twist like petrified snakes. A faint shimmer catches your eye, blue, almost oily. Feathers. Of course. You're not the only species that dances here. There are others. Cousins. Competitors. Some with brighter feathers, longer tails, or feet more adapted to stamping than tapping. This one, though, this dancer is built like a hammer in a music box. Broad chest, stubby tail, and a footfall that would shatter a termite mound. The feathers don't flutter, they bristle, and unlike yours, they don't blend into the background, they stand out. Brazen. You'd laugh if you weren't so busy holding your breath. Odd fact. In modern peacocks, the iridescence of feathers doesn't just attract mates, it messes with predator vision. The shimmer distorts outlines. It's possible this swamp cousin has evolved similarly intimidation through kaleidoscope. The rival dancer steps into view. They don't notice you right away. They're too busy stomping out their rhythm slow calculated. With each step, small ripples form in the puddles around them. But the beat isn't for food. You can tell the bugs aren't coming, they're hiding. This dancer's not here to lure insects. They're here to challenge you. You slide 1 foot backward into the damp leaf mulch. Your pads don't make a sound, but the mud remembers you. The water shifts around your weight. The wind pauses to eavesdrop. You tap once. That's all. A simple note. The other dancer stops mid-step. Their head jerks in your direction. You expect a rush and aggressive display, feathers, puffed, jaws bared. But they just smile. Not with their mouth. Dinosaurs don't do that. With their body. They lean back, roll their shoulders. You didn't even know you could roll shoulders and answer with 3 beats of their own tap, tap, pause, tap. You tilt your head. Respectful but not submissive. You tap back. A mirror. A test. This isn't a duel. It is a jam session. And just like that, the swamp has a pulse again. You fall into sync. It's not rehearsed. It couldn't be. But it works. Your steps weave around theirs like branches interlocking overhead. They stomp, you flutter. They drag, you skip. The air trembles, not from power, but from precision. Your duet stirs. The moss wakes the spores, makes a toad blink twice in surprise. A few insects crawl out, half curious, half hypnotized. You both ignore them. This isn't about dinner anymore. This is something else. Historians still debate whether communal behavior among small theropods was social or circumstantial. Fossilized trackways suggest some species moved in groups, but that doesn't necessarily mean friendship. Sometimes it's just safer to follow the beat of someone else's feet. But tonight this feels like something deeper. Like 2 strangers accidentally discovering the same song. Your rhythms grow softer, slower. The moon lowers on the horizon and the shadows stretch longer. The duet fades until only your heartbeat remains. You don't know whose last step it was. Doesn't matter. The other dancer nods once. Not a beu, not farewell, just recognition. Then they melt back into the ferns. You blink. Then blink again. Then wait. No movement. They're gone. You're alone again, except for the echo of the duet still swirling in your toes. You lift 1 foot, not to tap, but just to remember the shape of it. The feel of the pads, the angle, the grace. You've done this every night of your life, but only now does it occur to you that you've never watched yourself dance. You're always looking out, not in. Odd fact. There's a kind of fish that watches its own tail through light reflection on the sand to orient itself at night. You wonder, what would it feel like to watch your rhythm through someone else's eyes? You shake the thought away. Not useful. The bugs return, one by one. Hesitant, testing the silence. You lower your foot and tap once gently. A beetle crawls into reach, you let it pass. Tonight you're not hungry. Tonight you're thinking. And thinking's dangerous in the swamp because it leads to questions. Like why some dancers stomp louder than they need to. Or why feathers that shimmer in moonlight also shimmer in fear. Or whether rhythm is something you learn or something passed down in the bones. You sigh, not from sadness, from weight. Because knowing the dance is one thing, but knowing why you dance, that might be too big a question for one little dinosaur. Still, your feet are already moving again. Softly, thoughtfully. You don't fight it. The insects answer, the ferns sway, the show must go on. The swamp becomes a stage whether you want it to or not. It happens gradually. The ground firms under your feet. The moss thins into hard-packed peat, then into clay, then into something that might have once been a riverbed. You recognize this spot not by sight but by sound. This place echoes. When you step here, you feel your own rhythm bounce back at you. Not like in the soft marshes where the mud eats your music. Here, the earth listens. It replies. A perfect circle of resonance tucked between sleeping trees and fallen logs, a forgotten amphitheater cradled in a curtain of mist and moonlight. You step to the center. No one told you this was a stage, no one claps, but your feet know. You begin with 3 gentle taps. Testing the surface. It vibrates cleanly, warmly, all the way up to your chest cavity. You adjust your stance and tap again harder. The beat rebounds in crisp, wet syllables. Even the frogs stop for a moment. Even the wind pulls back. You're not alone, you know that. The swamp is full of things that listen but don't speak. Eyes peer from under lily pads. Wings twitch on branches above. And somewhere just beyond the ring of trees, predators sleep with one eye half open. They don't hunt with rhythm, but they recognize it. It means life is moving. You keep tapping anyway. Because tonight, the rhythm matters more than the risk. Historians still debate whether prehistoric animals had designated display grounds territories used not for nesting or feeding, but for ritual behavior. Some argue that circular clearings in ancient forest layers may indicate repeated use by a single species. Others think that's nonsense, just the result of water pooling in the same low-lying spots. But if they'd been here tonight in this bowl of packed earth and vibrating moonlight, they'd understand. You don't tap to be safe. You tap to be heard. The dance flows from your limbs now. Your feet move with an instinct older than fire. There's no routine, no memory guiding you. Just impulse, pressure, balance. Tap, tap, drag. Tap, pause. Tap. The bugs come late, but they come. A stream of them. Tiny ones at first, mites, gnats, soft-bodied things that ride vibrations like a wakeboard. Then larger ones. Beetles, worms, something like a 6-legged shrimp with armor plates and a face like a clogged sink. You eat without breaking rhythm. Just a flick of the tongue, a lean of the neck. Crunch, swallow, continue. Odd fact, some ant species will freeze completely when exposed to low-frequency sound. It's a survival tactic, become invisible by becoming still. You wonder how many insects you don't see because they're playing dead to your concert. The swamp begins to pulse around you, not visually, not loudly, but sensorially. You feel it in your chest like standing near a waterfall that never quite arrives. You don't know if it's the bugs reacting to you or you reacting to the bugs. Doesn't matter. You keep dancing. Then a noise cuts through everything. Not a predator, not another dancer, not even an animal. It's a crack. A tree branch heavy with damp gives way and collapses somewhere nearby. It's loud, sharp, a jarring, unnatural fracture in an otherwise flowing rhythm. You freeze mid-step, foot raised, and the bugs disappear. They don't run, they vanish. It's like someone flipped a switch. All at once, the air goes still. You lower your foot quietly, gently pressing your toes into the cold earth. The swamp doesn't echo this time. It just listens. Suspicious. Wary. The stage is no longer yours. You sniff. The air smells unfamiliar. Not predator. Not prey. Just wrong. like the scent of wet bark that isn't bark, the smell of something new. You retreat slowly. No stomps, no display, just careful backward steps, each one measured like a breath between apologies. The moon. Ever your spotlight begins to dim as clouds roll across the sky like lazy bouncers at a concert. No one's enjoying anymore. You find shelter behind a gnarled log once part of a tree taller than any beast still living. You press your body low. Even your tail flattens. Nothing moves. The swamp's rhythm is gone. You try tapping once lightly to test the ground. Nothing answers. Historians still debate whether silence was more feared than sound in the Mesozoic. Some argue that in a world of thunderous footsteps and flapping wings, silence only came with death. Others say silence was sacred, a pause in the rhythm of survival. But tonight it feels like punishment. You wait and wait. Eventually the breeze returns. A few frogs resume their clicking. A single moth flutters past your snout. It's not much, but it's enough. You crawl forward out from behind the log and place one foot on the old stage. It doesn't echo the same way, but you tap anyway, just once. A soft beat, a whisper of sound, like knocking gently on the shoulder of a friend who's fallen asleep mid-story. No answer, but the rhythm is still in your bones. So you wait, and eventually the swamp will remember the beat. The moonlight returns slowly like an apology. Thin beams slip through the gaps in the cloud cover, painting silver outlines around every leaf, log, and lump. The stage glows again, though its magic feels subdued now, like a party that kept going after the music stopped. You step back onto it anyway, not to dance, just to feel the ground beneath your pads. The vibrations aren't the same. The beat doesn't bounce, but the earth is still there. Still solid. Still listening even if it doesn't answer tonight. You lift one foot and stretch the toes. They ache a little. The pads are swollen from too much tapping. You've been dancing longer than usual. The bugs were worth it. The rival dancer was worth it. But the crack in the forest, that falling tree or whatever it was, threw everything off. So you do what your kind always does when something's not quite right. You pretend it is. Your feathers puff slightly, absorbing the nighttime chill. The swamp is cool now, almost refreshing. A light mist curls around your legs. Somewhere in the distance, a loud splash echoes. Probably a croc, maybe bigger. You don't react. You're too tired to react. Instead, you sit. Wish for your kind means folding your long limbs under you, like a theater goer in a too small seat. You settle into the dirt, let your belly rest on the still warm patch of earth you'd been dancing on. It cradles your chest like a familiar pillow. Odd fact, some birds regulate body temperature by warming their feet on sunlit rocks. You're not that different, except your rocks are made of mud, and your sun is the moon. You sigh. There's a strange comfort in the swamp's disinterest. You've never been a top predator, never a centerpiece. You're a side character in nature's musical, quirky, rhythmic, easily forgotten. But you've outlived many of the flashier ones. Sometimes it pays not to matter much. Then you hear it, a flutter. Not the kind that wings make, the kind feathers make when something tries not to be noticed. You don't move. Just shift one eye in its socket and look without turning your head. Another one. Not a rival, not a partner, just another of your kind. Not dancing, not watching you, just walking slowly along the edge of the clearing. Its feet are quiet, but you recognize the posture. Head low, tail flat. The gait of someone who wants to tap but hasn't decided if it's worth it tonight. You don't call out, you don't stomp. Instead, you blink once and then lower your head again back into rest. A minute passes, then another. Then, tap. You smile. Again, not with your mouth, with your foot. A single beat in reply. This isn't a duet. It's not even a conversation. It's an acknowledgement, like two jazz drummers passing each other on the street and nodding at the sticks in each other's pockets. Historians still debate whether group memory existed among your kind, if knowledge passed between generations by example, not teaching. No nests have been found with pictographs, no fossilized footprints shaped like lessons. And yet, the way this newcomer taps, the way they hesitate, the way they wait for your reply, it feels rehearsed, like something inherited through instinct and repetition. Maybe rhythm doesn't need words. Maybe it never did. The other dancer moves on, vanishing into the reeds. Their tapping fades and then stops. You imagine they found another stage. Or maybe they just got tired too. You rise again slowly. Your legs are stiff, but they work. Your feet are sore, but they're still yours. You step to the edge of the clearing and sniff the air. The swamp smells sweeter now. Not safe, never safe, but calmer. Whatever knocked that tree down earlier has moved on. Or maybe it's still nearby but no longer interested in creatures who dance more than they run. You begin to walk, not quite migrating, just shifting territory. A new patch of ground, a new set of bugs, a new moonlight angle. As you move, you tap lightly. Not full dance steps, just exploratory beats. Little question marks in foot forms. And some of them get answered. The bugs return. Hesitant, scattered, but they respond. You catch two, miss a third. That's okay. You pause by a cluster of thick-rooted trees and let your shoulder brush the bark. It flakes off easily, soft with rot. A centipede wriggles into the soil. You let it go. Tonight has been long. You tap one last rhythm, just 4 beats. You don't wait for a reply. You curl up among the roots and let your feathers settle. The air is damp and your breath fogs in little bursts against the leaves. You think about that bigger dancer, the one with the hammer stomp and the oil-slick feathers. You wonder if they're dancing somewhere else now. If their beat still echoes. If anyone's listening. Then you wonder if yours will echo too. You hope not. Not right now. Right now you don't want to be remembered. You just want to rest. And so, with one last slow blink, you let the swamp take back the sound. For now, you wake up to silence, but the good kind. Not the silence that comes with a predator nearby. Not the silence that follows a snapped branch or a scream muffled in ferns. No. This is the peaceful hush that drapes the swamp just before dawn. A heavy, wet blanket of calm. Everything is still, but not asleep. It's the quiet that says, now is the time. Your feet remember before your brain does. The left one flexes first, dragging lightly through damp loam. A slow exhale. Then the right. No beat, no rhythm. Just a test. A gentle reminder that you're still here. The roots around you haven't moved. The mist is thicker, swirling low and pale blue under a fading moon. You stand carefully, giving your joints time to wake. No need to rush. No one rushes in the swamp unless they're bleeding or stupid. Your feet itch again, not from soreness but from purpose. The itch is always how it starts. You don't question it anymore. You just look for space. You find a clearing nearby, not as perfect as last night's stage, but firm enough. A natural ring surrounded by knotted vines and broad-leafed plants that close in like gossiping elders. You walk to the center and wait, not for anyone else for the ground. You test it. Tap. It's hollow in the middle. That's promising. You circle slowly. 3 taps. 1 pause. Then a swirl of 6 fast ones. Not for performance, for calibration. Your body adjusting to the surface like a violinist tuning strings. Then, without warning or ceremony, you begin. Your rhythm starts simple, steady, alternating beats, see and dry. You're not luring food today, not yet. This is something else. The tapping has become ritual, a kind of meditation. You're burning off something, tension memory feathers that won't lie flat. You dance for the sake of dancing, and as you move, something shifts around the edges of the clearing. They emerge not from the trees, but from under them, from the vines, from the puddles, small creatures, insects mostly, a few crustaceans. One thing with too many legs and eyes that reflects moonlight like it's got a disco ball under its shell. They don't flee. They gather, drawn by the beat. Maybe. Drawn by the promise of movement. Possibly. Drawn by the illusion that something here knows what it's doing. That's more likely. Because in a world of noise, rhythm is rare. Rhythm means control. Rhythm means survival. Historians still debate whether prehistoric behaviors like your dance were ritualistic or purely functional. Was there a purpose behind the movement, or was it a byproduct of your design? One school argues that function always precedes flourish. Another believes that even ancient creatures engaged in display for its own sake. You, of course, don't split hairs. You just tap. Because not tapping feels wrong. You dance for almost 10 minutes. No bugs crawl close enough to eat. That's fine. You're not hungry. You're practicing. Until something changes. The beat stops, but not yours. The swamp stops echoing. Your next tap doesn't bounce. It thuds dull and unsatisfying. The audience scatters. Insects vanish into moss and cracks. Even the air pulls away like someone just held their breath. You freeze. Then you hear it. Another rhythm. Close. But not the kind you recognize. It's heavier, less precise, not a dancer, an intruder. You crouch, low feet, pressed flat, heartbeat, thumping so loud you half expect it to be audible. The ground is shaking not subtly like during your tap duels, but in deep pulses, like someone stomping, hard, random. This isn't rhythm. This is walking. You sniff, nothing. You squint, nothing. Then movement. A shadow looms between two fern trunks. It's tall, bulky, moving with casual indifference. A predator. You don't move, not even a toe twitch. This is where your feet become your curse. They're too big, too soft, too expressive. No claws to slash, no spikes to display. Just rhythm makers. And rhythm won't save you now. The shadow passes. It's not hunting you, just existing in the same space. And for now, that's enough. You let it go. You don't exhale until the ground stops shaking. Odd fact, some prehistoric predators hunted not by smell but by sensing ground vibrations. If you'd tapped during that moment, you'd have been dinner. You move slowly back toward the edge of the clearing. You don't flee, you leave. There's a difference. And once the threat is gone, something unexpected happens. You begin tapping again. Not loudly, just softly. A broken rhythm. A cautious return. It's not for insects, not for rivals, it's for you. Because predators or not, interruptions or not, this is what you do. You tap, you dance. Even if no one's watching, even if no one understands, even if every beat could be your last. Because in the swamp, being silent is just as risky as being loud. And you've chosen your risk. The bugs start to applaud again quietly, cautiously. They don't clap, of course. They shuffle, they buzz, they rise like steam. A few poke their antennae out of the mud, then retreat. A tiny silver beetle marches right across your foot like you're just part of the terrain. You don't flick it away. You respect the confidence. The rhythm is soft now, not a performance, not a statement. A hum, a lullaby for the soil. You move in slow arcs, pressing each toe down just long enough to feel the earth flex beneath it. The beat you play now isn't one for rivals or shows, it's one that says, food. If you're listening, come meet me halfway. And it does. A single fat grub breaks the surface and blinks up at you, though blink is generous. It doesn't have eyes. You eat it anyway, gently. You know what works now. Where to step, how to pressure, when to hold a beat until it trembles just so. Your dance has evolved from chaotic to deliberate. You're not just stomping for snacks anymore. You're operating nature's vending machine. And the currency rhythm. Tap, pause, tap, tap. Drag, lift, pause. 3 more insects appear. One tries to escape. You let it. Part of the game. Too easy and the whole system collapses. Odd fact in modern pitcher plants. Insects are lured by a rhythm of falling water droplets that mimic movement. Your dance might not be so different. You're not the only creature here playing on expectations. You find a slope mossy and damp that leads down to a small basin of exposed mud. You've never danced here before. The soil looks looser, a little unstable, but your hunger's not gone and neither is your rhythm. So you step down and the earth responds perfectly. Not loudly, but deeply. The vibrations don't echo, they reverberate, like the earth is humming beneath you, amplifying your beat in all directions. A ripple pulses out with each tap. You can see the mud shift at the edge of the basin. It's working. You keep going, building a new rhythm. Tap, 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 drag, pause, whump. That last one was a little too strong. You sink slightly. Not enough to panic, but enough to know this mud is awake. It's been waiting. And now it answers. Not with bugs, with worms. Big ones. They rise like sleepy snakes, blind fat glistening. They slide from beneath fern roots and slump over rocks like exhausted spaghetti. They pulse with slow waves of muscle, tasting the vibrations rolling toward the source like dreamers drawn to music. You freeze, not in fear, in wonder. This is more than you asked for. More than you wanted, maybe. Because the worms don't stop coming. They're not aggressive, just numerous. You snap up two before your brain catches up. They're soft, rich, full of something gritty but nourishing. A mineral taste. You don't love it, but it'll keep you moving. You slow your rhythm. The worms slow. You speed it again. They stir. Historians still debate whether prehistoric creatures had any control over the prey they attracted through vibrational cues. Were these responses just coincidence, or was it an ancient communication system? Were you calling, or were they just conditioned to crawl? You tap again. 4 more worms ooze forward. This time you take only one. The others circle you slowly, waiting, like they know they're being tested. And just then a strange feeling rises in your chest. Is it guilt? No, that's a human word. It's more like recognition. You're not the only one with rhythm. These creatures, sightless and silent, dance too. Their dance is slow, buried, unseen, but it answers yours. So you keep the beat soft now, measured, respectful. Tap, pause, drag. Tap, tap. They ripple in response, not in fear, in echo. The swamp has a heartbeat, and for a moment you're not the dancer. You're the drum. Your feet press the story into the ground, and the worms tell it back. Even the frogs fall silent again, not from fear, but reverence. This isn't food. This is communion. Odd fact. Some earthworm species navigate using subtle vibrations in soil caused by animal movement, aligning themselves to safety zones based on long-established rhythms. You wonder, are these worms old enough to remember your rhythm from generations ago? You step away not because you're full, but because the moment is full. The basin fades behind you as you climb back up the slope. You carry its beat in your bones now. You walk in rhythm, tapping softly every few steps, not as bait, but as thanks. The swamp replies in small ways. A flicker of fireflies, a distant hoot, the gentle bounce of moss underfoot. You pass by the stage from last night. You don't stop. The echoes are gone. That performance is over. Ahead, new ground, new feet, new listeners. The rhythm never ends. It just travels. The trouble with rhythm is that it doesn't belong to you. You think it does. You build it, you carry it, you master it. But it's shared. It leaks, it invites. And sometimes when you least expect it, calls the wrong kind of attention. You find a new clearing just past the crooked cypress line. It's good ground, firm, spongy, responsive. Not too wet, not too loud. You tap once just to test. The beat answers cleanly. A little shallow, but workable. You tap again. The bugs come quicker than expected. 3 fat-bodied beetles and something long and glassy that might have been a shrimp or might have been a centipede in a bad disguise. Either way, crunch, swallow, tap again. Dinner. You settle in, starting to build a rhythm like you always do, soft at first, then layered. A few back steps, one sharp stomp, a dragging heel that flicks a pebble across the moss. You're in it now. Not performing, not competing, just flowing. And then the frogs stop. All of them. It's not a slow fade like before. Not a natural hush. It's a hard stop, instant. You freeze mid-tap. You glance around. The trees don't move, the leaves don't rustle. But something's off. You listen, and then you hear it. A crack, not loud but clear. like a reed snapping under something heavy. You don't breathe. Then another sound, low, rhythmic, but not delicate, not subtle. Thud, thud, thud. No finesse, no pacing, just presence. Something is coming. Not a dancer, not a rival, a problem. You retreat 3 steps toward the ferns, barely making a sound. Your foot pads made for performance, not panic, flatten to mute every movement. You crouch, neck low, feathers tight to your body. The thuds continue. They're getting closer. The swamp doesn't like this sound. You can tell. The air feels brittle. The trees seem to huddle. Even the insects vanish as if nature itself is holding its breath. And then you see it. Between 2 leaning tree trunks it appears massive, hunched, armored, with scales the color of wet bark and bones. Its head is too low. Its legs are too thick. Its tail drags like a fallen log. A predator. One of those. You've never known their name, but you know them. They don't tap. They don't dance. They just devour. They don't move like you. They move like they've never needed to earn their meals. No rhythm, no grace. Just brute momentum. It steps into your clearing, sniffing the ground where your taps had vibrated seconds before. Its nose twitches. It snarls low and throaty like a throat clearing before a funeral. You hold still. You are still. You are a feather. You are a root. You are a part of the earth. And then another sound. Behind it, from farther away, another tap. Not yours. Not careful. Panicked. You wince. It hears it too. The beast's head swivels. The snarl disappears. Its whole body turns toward the sound, moving with sudden hideous silence. It stalks now, fast, fluid, horrifying. You don't wait to see what happens next. You run, or something close to running. Your feet weren't made for sprinting, remember? But you know how to move quietly, how to move smart. You dart between tree trunks, skirt over moss beds, avoid puddles that would splash and give you away. Every step is calculated. Every heartbeat echoes in your mouth. Odd fact, some prehistoric predators ignored motionless prey altogether, relying on sound and vibration alone to identify a target. Which makes your current escape a balancing act, fast enough to flee, slow enough to stay quiet. Behind you, a distant crash, then a yelp, then silence again. You keep going, through brambles, across fallen logs, under low branches that rake your back with wet leaves. Finally you stop, chest heaving, not from exhaustion, from terror. The air is heavy again, but this time it's not from fear. It's from rhythm, a beat, faint. Ahead of you, you creep forward through the underbrush. Another of your kind stands in a glade, tapping, fast, frantic, wrong. They don't hear you approach. They don't hear anything. They just tap, over and over, desperate. Like if they can just hit the right pattern, the danger will go away. You want to yell, but your species doesn't yell. You step into the clearing. Their eyes catch yours. You stomp once loud. They stop. You step back into shadow. A long pause. Then they follow you. Neither of you speaks. You just move. Together. Quiet. Rhythm doesn't save everyone. But tonight it saved someone. And that will have to do. The night drags on, but you don't. You move slowly, now weaving between roots and patches of soft grass, your new companion, trailing behind like an echo without a voice. They haven't tapped once since the clearing. You haven't asked them to. There's no need. The air is still thick with what nearly happened. You guide them to an old log half submerged in moss. It's hollow, tilted, and smells like the kind of rot that attracts all the right insects. You sniff gesture with your chin. They get it. They crawl halfway and curl into themselves and disappear into the green. You don't join them. Your feet still twitch, not in panic, in hesitation. You circle once around the log, then twice, then settle nearby with your back against a cluster of stones facing the way you came. Always the exit, always the escape route in mind. It's quiet again, but not peaceful. You're thinking now, and that's dangerous. Historians still debate the meaning of the dance. You've probably heard that by now if you could understand words. Was it for hunting? Was it for mating? Was it some kind of territorial display? A social code, or just movement for the sake of movement? Some fossilized trackways show distinct patterns, repeated footfalls in the same rhythm over and over across ancient floodplains and lake beds. Some paleontologists say that proves intentionality. Others say it proves nothing. Coincidence, they say. Instinct. The fallback excuse when something ancient refuses to explain itself. But here you are. And you know, without knowing that rhythm is language. It's how you say I'm here. How you say this is mine. How you say come closer or stay away or please please don't eat me. It's everything. And it's dangerous. Because it doesn't just attract food, it doesn't just invite dance-offs. It invites listeners, some of whom don't understand nuance or mercy. So now you think differently, tap differently. You begin to adapt. You wake your pads one at a time, curl, stretch, press. You feel the texture of the ground beneath you. Soft moss, dry bark, hard stone. Each one carries sound differently. Each one requires a different pressure, a different timing. You experiment. Tap on a stone. The sound is sharp, quick, almost metallic. Good for short bursts, bad for echo. Tap on moss. No bounce at all. Total silence. Could be useful. Tap on bark. Crumbly. Too much debris. Carries the beat but clutters it. Maybe in a pinch. Then dirt. Old dirt. Dry, packed, lightly crusted on top but soft underneath. This is your sweet spot. You spend the next half hour refining your beat. Not flashy, not loud, precise. 3 light taps, then a stomp. 2 steps back, 1 slow drag. The bugs respond. Not many, just a few, but the right kind. You eat quietly. Ha-eh. Without flair. Your companion eventually emerges from the log. Blinking slowly, feathers slightly ruffled. They look at you. You nod. They do not dance, but they watch. And that in this moment is enough. Odd fact, in some modern primates, the young don't imitate their parents immediately. They watch. For hours, days. They absorb rhythm long before they mimic it. You wonder if this one is doing the same. If so, your quiet, careful steps tonight may shape a generation. That's a strange thought. You decide not to dwell on it. Instead, you return to the clearing you passed earlier. It's flatter than before, trampled slightly. The rhythm has been erased, but the ground remembers. You step into the center. Your feet don't need to test anymore. You begin a new beat. Slow, thoughtful, not for food, not for show, for remembering. Your companion watches from the edge. You hear a rustle. They step forward. 1 foot, then another. They tap. It's clumsy, off rhythm, unsteady, but it's an answer. You pause, then reply. Together. You build something strange. Part mirror, part improvisation, part apology. For the panic earlier. There are stumbles, there are false starts, but the rhythm finds you both. Slowly, like water soaking into dry soil. And suddenly it's not a duet. It's a memory of safety, of sound, of something ancient that even fossils can't record. The bugs return. You ignore them. The trees sway. You barely notice. The sky begins to lighten just a touch. The first hints of pre-dawn purple. And you realize you've danced through the night. Your feet ache. Your body sags. But the swamp listened, and someone learned. You end with a single stomp. Not hard, not soft. Final. Your companion mirrors you. And for the first time in hours, you allow yourself to blink. Long, slow, peaceful. Tomorrow the predators may come back. Tomorrow the rhythm may fail. But tonight the beat was yours. The wind shifts. It's not much, just a gentle rearranging of the air, but your feathers lift in response. You raise your snout, sniff once, then twice. The scent is muddier now, wetter. Something upstream has stirred. Not a predator, not yet. Just water doing what it always does, moving without permission. Your companion has curled back up under a low branch, their back to you, feet tucked beneath like a sleeping bird. You don't blame them. Last night's rhythm wore through you both like river through limestone. Rest is earned. But for you, sleep doesn't come yet. You move quietly from the clearing, not far, just enough to be alone with the ground again. Your feet need new surfaces, new ideas, something different to test. You follow the scent, and it leads you to the edge of a seasonal channel, dry now, but etched with deep grooves and old pebbles worn smooth by centuries of vanishing floods. You've tapped on moss, mud, bark, stone. But here is something new. The dry riverbed sings. You place one foot in it and press. The beat doesn't echo, it travels. You can feel it ripple outward in a spiral pattern like it's being translated into something bigger. The pebbles shift, the grooves amplify. It's less like percussion, more like language. You take another step, and another. Then you dance, not with force, with touch. Each tap is a question, each pause a breath. The earth answers, not with bugs, not with worms, with resonance. You are vibrating through the bones of a sleeping river, and the river listens. Historians still debate whether ancient species used specific landscapes for communication. Some believe migrating herds passed messages through watercourses by way of sound. Others argue that's projection humans applying meaning to mindless movement. But you know better. This isn't just noise. It's a signal. And something out there answers. You hear it faintly. A rhythm. Distant. Not like yours. Thud, thud. Pause. Thud. Too slow. Too clumsy. But intentional. You freeze. You scan the trees beyond the riverbed, past the willows, leaning like tired dancers. Nothing. Just shadows. Mist, the odd ripple of leaves. You tap back. Nothing aggressive, just enough to say, I hear you too. The answer comes again, closer. And this time you feel it in your ribs. Not fear, not yet, but awareness. Because this rhythm doesn't match yours. It's not another of your kind. It doesn't belong to the feathered, the light-footed, the careful. This one is hungry. You stop tapping immediately. You wait. The rhythm fades. The echo withdraws. You step backwards slowly, letting your feet make no sound now. No signal, just absence. Odd fact. Certain species of burrowing animals avoid drumming their feet near riverbeds during dry seasons, not because they fear predators, but because predators hear better in these acoustic corridors. You make it back to the clearing without incident. Your companion is still asleep, or pretending to be. You curl up nearby, not touching, just close enough. The sun is barely rising now, casting the world in amber tones and long shadows. The swamp begins to wake. Frogs resume their clicking. Birds flutter in the canopy, unseen but noisy. The day begins. You do not tap, not yet. The morning is a time for stillness, for memory, for letting the rhythm sit quietly in your bones while the rest of the world makes noise. You stare at the riverbed through the trees. The earth remembered you. But so did something else. You wonder what it wanted. You hope it was just curious. You doubt it. Still, there's something comforting in knowing you were heard. Even if the listener wasn't kind. Even if the echo was sharp. Because silence is the most dangerous thing of all. And rhythm, for better or worse, means you exist. So you rest your head on your forelimb. And for now, you exist. You don't dance that morning. Your feet ache and your thoughts feel heavier than usual. You spend most of the day in the shade pressed against a tree root that hums faintly with termite activity. It's comforting in a weird way. The sound is constant, alive, harmless, predictable. Your companion doesn't wander far. They step in little arcs, testing the ground as you once did. They don't tap, but you see it in their stance, the muscle memory forming the feet, adjusting their center of gravity, beginning to lean towards sound instead of silence. They're watching you more now. You pretend not to notice. The sun hangs heavy above the swamp, making everything slow. Bugs shimmer over still puddles. Dragonflies click. A lizard snaps something off a leaf and then disappears into bark. Even the air is too tired to move. You lie still and let the heat press down like a blanket. Odd fact, some species of feathered theropods may have adjusted their activity rhythms based on lunar cycles. Paleontologists found bone rings that hint at changes in rest and movement patterns aligned to moonlight, not daylight. That makes sense to you now. You're not built for the sun. Not truly. Your vision is too keen in the dark. Your dance too quiet for the noisy daylight world. You survive the day, but the night, that's when you live. The heat finally breaks late in the afternoon. A breeze stirs the ferns and clouds begin to gather in a lazy rolling formation. You lift your head. The smell is unmistakable rain. You've danced in the rain before, but never well. Rain changes everything. The ground loses its bounce. The echoes collapse into mush. Every step becomes guesswork. The bugs don't come out to play. The worms stay deep. The whole world dampens not just in texture, but in spirit. But the moon will return. You know this. It always does. When the sun finally sets, it leaves behind a sky too thick for stars. Just a veil of clouds and a low, grumbling promise. Your companion is already awake. They're restless now. Tapping not deliberately just pacing, but the sound is there. The rhythm raw and uncertain. They're ready to try. But you don't move. You sit and listen. Not to them. To yourself. The rhythm is different inside you now. It's slower. Wiser, maybe. Or just tired. You remember that moment in the riverbed, the resonance, the response. You haven't danced since. Not properly. Maybe it scared you. Or maybe it changed you. Historians still debate whether behaviors like yours could shift over time. If one traumatic event could rewrite instinct. There's fossil evidence of healed injuries in prey animals suggesting that sometimes after surviving a predator they adapted, changed their gait, their habits, their risks. You're not limping, but your beat has changed. When the first drops fall, they come in pairs. Plip-plop. Then a scatter of light taps. Then a pour. The swamp soaks it in eagerly, every leaf bowing under the weight. You step into it, not to dance, just to feel. The rain strikes your feathers with hundreds of tiny patters. It runs down your snout beads at your claws, pools at your feet. The ground beneath you turns soft, deceptive. You tap once. It doesn't echo. You tap again harder. Nothing. Your companion tries too. Their taps are light hesitant. The water swallows it whole. You both stand there in the rain, feet moving, soundless. But even in failure, there's rhythm. Just different. You press your foot down and hold it. No beat, just pressure. The soil pushes back faintly. The connection is there, not sharp, not vibrant, but alive. So you shift tactics. You begin to move instead of tap. Circles, spirals. Long dragging steps that trail the water. The patterns leave impressions. Temporary, shallow. Your companion joins in. Neither of you speak, but both of you know what this is. Adaptation, a new rhythm. Born not of sound, but of motion. The swamp won't echo tonight, but it will remember your shapes. Odd fact. Ancient creatures often left behind more than bones. Some left trackways, swirls, shallow tail drags that formed under shallow waterbeds. And sometimes those impressions confuse scientists for decades. Were they art behavior or just something done on a rainy day? You think they were all of it. You circle once more, then pause. The rain lessens, not much, just enough. And then somewhere near the center of the clearing, you tap once. The faintest echo replies. Not a full beat. Not even clear, but real. You look at your companion. They smile not with their face, but with their stance. Shoulders loosen, feet rise. They try again. And this time the echo's clearer. The moon hasn't returned yet, but the rhythm has. And so with mud on your toes and rain in your feathers, you begin to tap again. Soft, measured, resilient. The beat isn't the same, but it doesn't have to be. You feel it in your bones before your brain catches up. The pull, the shift. That ancient tug in your chest that says it's time to move. Not because of hunger, not fear. Because the world itself is changing. The swamp has moods, and this one is restless. The water levels are rising, not fast but steadily. Patches you once danced on now sink under half an inch of reflective silence. The moss has grown slick. The bugs have thinned out. The worms burrow deeper. You stand at the edge of a hollow you knew as a stage, but now it's a pond. Not dangerous, not yet. Just used up. The rhythm here has played itself out. Your companion knows too. They tap but half-heartedly. Their feet slide more than they stomp. The sound doesn't carry. Even the trees seem less interested. You both stare into the water. Not for answers, just to see what's still visible. A reflection stares back at you. Not accurate, not exact. Your snout looks longer. Your tail shorter. The ripples turn your body into a slow-dancing ghost. You blink. The water doesn't. Odd fact. Some ancient swamp-dwelling reptiles used still water as a kind of mirror. Not to admire themselves, don't be ridiculous, but to watch for sky movement. Predator shadows, sudden birds. Sometimes reflections were safer than looking up. You step back and shake the water off your toes. The itch is back, but not in your feet this time. In your spine. In your direction. It's time to move on. Not just away from predators. Not just toward food. It's migration. Your kind doesn't migrate in flocks or packs. There's no great procession of dancers moving across the continent in perfect formation. No synchronized footwork. Just a few here, a few there, each following some deep seasonal memory written in feather and tendon. You look at your companion. They're already watching you, waiting. You don't speak. You just shift your weight toward the southeast, toward the dry ridges that rise beyond the trees. Old riverbanks, safe ground, different soil, a different beat. You begin walking. No rhythm, not yet, just movement. Your feet, so attuned to pressure, adapt quickly to the new terrain. The ground firms with every step. Less moss, more pebbles. The ferns grow shorter. The trees spread out, leaving room for sky. And then you hear it. Not from behind, from above. A long, low call. Not a predator's bark. Not a bird's cry. Another of your kind. You stop. Listen. Then tap. A single beat. Far away. Soft but clear. You don't reply. You just keep moving. Because this journey isn't about finding others. It's about reaching the next stage and the final performance. Historians still debate whether small theropods engaged in ritualistic last dances before relocating. Some suggest that areas dense with overlapping footprints mark farewell displays, final rhythms pressed into earth before the herds moved on. Others insist those sites are just traffic jams. Accidents of geology. But you know the truth. Because as the trees thin and the swamp recedes behind you, you feel the rhythm rising again. Not frantic, not excited, just steady. You find a small hill, dry, cracked, barely touched by water all season. The soil is soft, dusty, but packed beneath. It's perfect. Your companion circles you once, then stops. You don't need to look at each other. You just know. You begin. Not with the practiced beat of a seasoned hunter. Not with the playful duel of rivals. Not even with the cautious echo of a rainy night. This is something else. A farewell. You stomp once. It echoes. They follow. Their footfall is slightly off. You adjust. The two of you fall into a slow, spiraling rhythm. Wide circles. Gentle steps. Each beat placed carefully as if signing your name into the ground. The bugs don't come. They're not supposed to. This isn't about food. This is about memory. You drag your foot once in a wide arc. Your companion mimics you. The shapes you leave will last hours, maybe days, maybe millions of years. If the ground is kind, if the wind is lazy. Odd fact, some fossilized footprints show dinosaurs walking in pairs perfectly side by side with no signs of panic or predation. Just two beings moving together across time. You don't know what a fossil is, but you know this moment matters. You finish with a stomp. They do too. Silence. The swamp is far behind now. Ahead, the ridges stretch into dry lands dotted with sparse brush and crickets that sing in 5-note bursts. You take a deep breath. It smells different here. Lighter. You walk. Not fast. Not slow. Your companion follows. And behind you in the dry hollow, where the swamp once whispered, the dust settles into footprints. A final recital. Before the rhythm moves on. The ground here doesn't sing. It holds, it cracks, it listens maybe, but without replying. The moss is gone. The soft swamp underbrush replaced by dry soil streaked with old roots and broken pebbles. Every step you take is louder now, but flatter. The music doesn't bounce back. And still you dance. Because even when the rhythm doesn't echo, you remember what it felt like when it did. Your companion walks behind you, keeping time not with taps but with distance. They're close but not touching. Each footstep is careful, deliberate. You've noticed they don't look down when they walk anymore. They don't need to. Their feet know. You crest a low rise and find what you're looking for. An old wash, wide and shallow, its bottom dry and hardened by days of heat. The perfect place for a final beat. You don't know why this place feels important, only that it does. The clouds above have thinned just enough for moonlight to spill over the ridge like old memories. You feel it in your chest, the swell of instinct, the pull of tradition older than your kind can measure. You step into the center and begin. It's not a show, not a summoning, not even a message. It's a moment. Your pads strike the ground gently. Whoop, whoop, pause, tap, tap, tap. You make no sound beyond that. No cries, no rustling. The only punctuation is breath. Your companion joins you. Their beat is off at first, nervous, excited, unsure of which tempo to follow. But you slow down. Soften. Give them space. They find it as. Together you fill the dry wash with quiet percussion. Odd fact, some dinosaur footprints have been found side by side with no stride variation, indicating not just shared paths, but synchronized walking. Whatever the reason, it suggests something most scientists hate to say out loud: intent. Tonight you have intent, and you press it into the soil with every step. You make circles, then spirals, then trails that run straight and narrow like roads leading nowhere. You stamp one foot 3 times and leave it there a beat too long. Your companion mirrors you. You move to the side. They follow. You are not leaders. You are not equals. You are dancers. And the beat, old as the moon, is not yours to own. It only passes through you. You stop first, mid-step, feathers still, breath deep. Your companion takes 3 more steps, then stops, mirroring your posture. You wait. The silence around you is total. No frogs, no birds, no bugs, just memory. And then the earth shifts beneath your feet. Not much, just enough to remind you it's not permanent. You leave the wash quietly. The marks in the dirt are visible but not flashy, not deep. They'll fade soon, under rain, under dust, under time. But for now they stay. And somewhere far in the future, someone will see them and ask the question, were they fleeing? Were they foraging? Were they fighting? Or were they dancing? Historians still debate the answer, but you know it. You were dancing. And that's the only reason anyone ever left a mark worth wondering about. You travel east after that. The land flattens. The moon rises higher. The sky clears entirely, scattering stars like ash. You walk in silence. Your companion follows. There's no more need for rhythm tonight. You've said everything you meant to say. Your feet ache, but in the good way. Like they've done something lasting. You curl up beside a fallen tree when dawn begins to scratch its way across the sky. Not a swamp tree, this one's brittle, sun-bleached. A stranger. You lie down in its shadow and finally let your eyes close. No tapping. No echo, just sleep. Because sometimes the beat must rest too. The sun rises soft, and this time you let it. You don't shift away from its warmth. You don't hide in the shadow of branches. You let the golden light settle across your feathers, heavy with dust and damp. Every muscle in your legs pulses from the night before, but it's not pain. It's history. A story worn into your skin, pressed into every aching tendon. Your companion is already awake. They don't move. They watch the horizon with the stillness of someone who's just learned patience. Their eyes blink slowly once every few moments. Their breathing is shallow. If you didn't know better, you'd say they were listening. You stretch your legs one at a time, carefully. No tapping yet, just motion. You walk a small circle around the fallen tree, your feet sinking softly into cracked soil. You don't need to test the ground today. You're not here to summon bugs or challenge rivals or impress the trees. You're here to remember, because you feel it now. The change. The rhythm doesn't live in the earth anymore. It lives in you. Every beat you've ever danced, every stomp, tap, slide, or stumble, it's all settled deep in your bones. The swamp didn't teach you, the river didn't shape you, you were the song all along. Odd fact, some fossilized trackways show signs of hesitation. Pauses. Sudden stops. As if the creature wasn't sure what it was doing. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was dancing. Maybe it was deciding when to stop. You don't dance today. You walk. Not far. Just over a ridge past a line of shallow-rooted shrubs. The ground flattens into a broad shelf of red dirt, dry and cracked, dotted with prints left by things that passed here before you. Some are huge, three-toed, deep. Some are tiny, clawed, erratic. You recognize none of them. You step into the middle of it and leave your own. 3 gentle footprints all in a row. Then you stop. Not because you're tired, because that's where the rhythm ends. Your companion joins you a moment later. They don't walk next to you. They don't leave a parallel set of prints. They step just behind, placing their feet inside your tracks. You glance over your shoulder. They look down at your prints, then up at you. And then they tap. Just once. No fanfare. No echo. Just acknowledgement. Historians still debate whether ancient animals possessed memory in a way that could shape legacy, whether footsteps were meant to be followed or just happened to be visible when others passed by. They argue about intention, but intention leaves no fossil. Only footprints do. You step away from your own trail and let them walk forward. You don't correct them. They dance how they choose. Their rhythm is clumsy, uneven, beautiful. You watch for a while, and then you lie down. Not out of fatigue, out of completion. The beat continues without you. It always was going to, because that's what rhythm does. It outlives the dancer. It keeps moving even after the last echo fades. Odd fact, some of the best preserved fossil footprints are found mid-step. 1 foot down, 1 lifted, frozen in time, not standing still but becoming. You close your eyes, and the sound fades gently, not into silence, but into memory. The final rhythm is not a stomp, not a tap, not a beat pressed into mud. It's breath. It's stillness. It's the knowledge that you were heard, and that someone else will keep dancing, even after your feet go still. In a forgotten swamp where moonlight dances on the surface of still pools, you emerge as a creature unlike any other, small, feathered, and strange. Your survival depends not on speed or strength, but on rhythm. Every night you tap dance for food beneath the stars, luring insects from the soil with vibrations shaped like song. What begins as instinct becomes tradition. The beat carries you across moss, stone, and mud. You duel rivals, confuse predators, teach a companion, and echo through a land that remembers everything. Your feet leave patterns in the earth, footsteps, arcs, spirals, signs of presence and purpose. The rhythm you carry is not just for hunting, it's for memory, for language, for saying I am here without ever making a sound. Over time, the beat changes. You adapt. From soft moss to dry dust, from duets to silence, from motion to meaning. The rhythm begins to live within you, needing no echo to be real. Even when danger comes, you survive not by fighting but by listening. At the end, you pass your rhythm on. Not through words, through steps. And the one who follows you dances not because they must, but because you showed them how. The swamp forgets your name, but the ground remembers your beat. And so do we.